Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyaadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
Nithyananda, today's topic for Vaakyaartha Sadhas is from the 9th verse of Ishavasya Upanishad, exploring the meaning of sacred truths. How the incomplete knowledge makes you arrogant and makes you lose your seeking, makes you egoistic. How the growth gets stopped by the incomplete knowledge. This is what we need to do manana on today and have a Vaakyaartha Sadhas on. What is incomplete knowledge?
Okay.
So before that, we will start with the chant, the 9th verse of Ishavasya Upanishad. Can we have the chant, please?
Andam tama pravishanti ye avidyam upashate tato bhuya ivate tamo yavu vidyayam rataha.
The meaning: those who worship avidya, the ignorance that veils the true knowledge of truth, consciousness, enter into blinding darkness, characterized by the absence of perception. But into greater darkness of ignorance than that enter they who, considering themselves as scholarly and learned, are engaged in avidya, the incomplete knowledge acquired for vested interests, characterized by impure perception of truth and consciousness. So here we are dealing with two categories of people. So what is it that we understand as an incomplete knowledge?
For me, what I understand by incomplete knowledge is those who are unenlightened. All those have incomplete knowledge.
What do you understand by the term enlightened?
Those who don't know who are they are not sure of themselves. Where are they from? Who are they? So these people have incomplete knowledge. They are apart from those who are not working or not wanting to know who are they. They just know that there's something, but they are not complete beings who have acquired the true knowledge.
What I understand it to mean is, the example Swamiji gave this morning was that you have to experience knowledge for it to really sink in. It's one thing to know a truth, but until you experience it in your biomemory, you actually don't understand completely what that truth or knowledge is. And I feel that people who just sit in rooms and read books, keep truth at a distance. It doesn't really sink into them. Whereas people who head out into the world and have experiences, as Swamiji said, the thousands of experiences he had came from just being out there and demanding it from the universe. It didn't come from sitting in a room and just reading the books. So there's a difference. And he said that he prefers to work with people who have experience-based bodies, because those bodies know truth when they hear it.
I have a doubt here. Those who are not exposed to this scriptural knowledge but live life through experience, would you consider them to be more knowledgeable than those who are exposed to scriptural knowledge and are not applying it practically in their life and wanting to experience it?
Immediately I would like to respond to that. Vast population of rural India. I can vouch 100% for rural India. I can't say the same about the modern city life, people engrossed in city life, but rural India, which I have experienced 25 years back and until about 10 years, 15 years back also. They keep saying things from the scriptures. They can't quote the scriptures. Some of them can. But everyone has got a quotation, some saying in a local parlance. But they have a knowledge which they have received from the pujari or the street show that periodically every year, 4 or 5 times a year, there will be some celebration in front of the temple and there will be this street show where Bharata or some Parayanam, something, Parayanam means chanting, some different folklore methods are there. They happen and they catch from that. They work all day, all night, they'll be sitting there and listening, sometimes sleeping, sometimes sitting, but they'll be listening and catching, and it is in their local parlance. It is there. That was the feature of life. Everybody would keep chanting that in rural area. And they would be called as gullibles, village illiterates, but they do know the tattva and they live it. They apply it in their life. For example, I have seen 30, 40 years back, when I was a kid in the village, people would get a snake bite or a scorpion bite, and every street would have one guy who can do mantra. And lo and behold, the poison will not affect the person. Some people die, but most people survive. A lot of people survive. Rarely they die from a snake bite or from a scorpion bite. Now there are no snakes, of course, no scorpions. There is no ant also probably some places. But they used to depend on that, and mantra shakti was there. So people were there who were spiritually connected, who knew the skill, technique, and they had the complete faith and belief. They had the complete understanding, very strong perception, very strong experience-based love. I can only say that, love. Because they would all work as a team, and they would share as a team, and they would live as a team. And they have all of that nice belief that they are one family, etc. Everything was there. And I can't say they are illiterate people. They are illiterate in our sense. They don't know English probably. But they are literate in the tattvas. They are literate where it matters. Their knowledge counts where ours don't count. The modern education don't count.
But would you say there will be scope for deeper experience and ultimately reaching that experience of enlightenment in this group? Or would it be that the scriptural knowledge, like what the Upanishads are giving us, living them, doing manana on it, and then experiencing and that going deeper into that as an experience would... See, there is need for direction, right? Somewhere, sometime. We are blessed, we have Swamiji to continuously guide us. So wherever our seeking stops, it is half. Whatever said and done, our experience is also not a full experience. But we have some kind of a direction consistently being given to us, where we ponder over, where we do manana. I'm just thinking, which are the category of people you consider this? See, your group will not be arrogant. What we are speaking about, the village people, they have knowledge, they have got the knowledge, they experience a bit of it, they live it, but it forms a very amicable society, a very friendly relation, a very heart-based society. The scope for further expansion into knowledge is questionable there. On the other side, you have the scholarly people, the so-called people who are exposed to scriptures, but the arrogance that is set in because they have the right to the scriptures and they have got it. Yet there is no experience, it's only the brain, the intellect. So,
yes, ma. See, just the other day I was presenting something and I was asked to remove the arrogance from my eyes. And the next learning after that was, see, don't assume that people will know what you're thinking. or what you know, people will know. And somewhere I got that, and the further learning from that was that the connection with people is lost. One is that the flow of seeking has stopped. When I believe, okay, I'm done here, there's nothing more for me to learn. Somewhere when that unconscious decision that there's nothing else for me to learn means I've become an expert at it, right? Then I've stopped seeking. When I've stopped seeking, then obviously no expansion is happening there. Even when there is scope for expansion, there's a shutdown. And that stops the connection with the people. So the very reason this overflow could be supporting people around me, for whatever reason, scholarly for instance, somebody who's a scholar, what they know, their knowledge will help others around them. But if that arrogance has come in, then the disconnection from the very people that could benefit from that has stopped. So I can see that it is a dark place. It is actually darkness, I would describe what it says in the Upanishads. So that is what I'm getting from when I look at myself, what has happened and where all, say for instance, as a designer, somewhere I decided that I know everything that I need to know. There is no more scope for expansion, except here, obviously there is scope for expansion. There is a new dimension that has been showed to me where I don't know, right? And it's not I don't know what I need to know. It's more, this is this place I have not expanded, explored and seeked more, done more seeking into. So I think the danger exactly is that when you think you are an expert, exactly what Swamiji said, right? We've decided that that's it. I don't need to learn anymore. That is where the arrogance comes in, I feel.
I was contemplating this, and I feel there's a lot I need to know. So I was trying to figure out, well, where am I in darkness of ignorance? Where am I being arrogant? There has to be some place, obviously. And so then I thought, well, when we're talking to other people and we're not providing authentic listening, and we're using our judgments to predetermine what they are going to say or who they are, when we're having that comparison and judgment, that I think is also a form of this darkness, because we're shutting off the authentic listening. We're not getting in communion with the other person, and so we're not getting into that Advaitic space with them either. So I think it's a big miss that we're doing all the time without even realizing.
So I got one click just now, what incomplete knowledge is. It is, obviously incompletion is when you are bringing your past into the present. So with that authentic listening also, and even with design, as I said, whatever I knew yesterday, I'm bringing into today. So that is incomplete knowledge, and not allowing this moment today. What I have is a brand new, fresh being in this moment, and allowing myself to learn something new. So that is where the incomplete knowledge is, because you're bringing the past. Exactly what you said. No, I already know what this person is going to say. It's bringing an incompletion from somewhere else, and not listening or not being here in that moment. That is what that's what I want to share. Thank you.
See, all the Upanishads are linked, and they bring back to the same thing is what our teacher is saying and Swamiji is saying. So we were studying Kenopanishad, and in that one there is one sequence in which it says, there's one point where it says, those who think they know, they don't know, and those who think they don't know, they know. And it doesn't mean those who think they don't know, they know, in the sense they know, but they know that they don't know. So Swamiji's line in the NDY, earlier LBP and ASP was, if you don't know that you don't know, you don't even know that you don't know. If you know that you don't know, at least you know that you don't know. That's a conscious awareness of the ignorance at least. Otherwise, unconscious ignorance. So, in that level, about Brahman, even Devatas were misled, thinking that they knew. Everybody, all great people were misled until they were told by consciousness itself. For us, fortunately, our Swamiji is there to, like the village people who knew some idea as a tattva but did not get the benefit of proper education, and also some generation which was generally following the things but they didn't know why, how, what. Now we have the benefit of Master who is here to give us the culture and the knowledge and the technique and the technology and the whole thing about it, and make us people who will be able to help others. Not only just we follow, but we will be able to help others. So I feel we are fortunate to learn from one level at least, because there's somebody who tells us what to do and also a little bit of why. So whatever we are following, first thing that is stunning and most appreciative by people in our mission is, anybody who comes, it's a very learning experience. Lots of material is there. Swamiji has spoken unlimited amount of, already so much of knowledge, and you can spend the rest of your life just dwelling on one small part. So much of knowledge is already there. And then experience also is there. So if we take to the teaching sincerely and start really, really enjoying the process of learning, then it's a beautiful, blissful state. As a side effect, some other thing may happen, but learning, if you are lost in the learning as a Vidyarthi, it's a greatest space to be.
Very true. I'll get back to probably the Varnashrama that we used to have, where the gunas decided, the guna in you decided that which Varna that you need to take. So we had those 4 classes of Brahmin community, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya and the Shudra. So a Brahmin at that point of time is supposed to have a few qualities, right? And of course predominantly should be in the Sattvic guna, and there are certain 6 things that he is supposed to do. One is learning, teaching, okay, doing the sacrifice and learning how to do the sacrifice, giving and accepting. So these are the things that he is supposed to be knowing as a Brahmana. But what has happened? See, the so-called knowledge which they gained from the scriptural text, where did the sharing not happen? How did the arrogance set in? What is it that really separated that from, which could have been given to the society at large as knowledge itself, to make them understand that what exactly is truth, why are we here as human beings? So that is actually the place where a big cutoff happened. One lot only had the knowledge but did not experience it, used the knowledge for vested interest of whatever the ritualistic exercises that they were supposed to do in terms of, because they were the ones who could perform it, the puja for the others. And somewhere the knowledge did not transcend into the rest of the society. It also did not transcend down into the lineage itself. Okay, now what is it that really, see, that, could you call that arrogance, or could you call, see, there is ignorance there, no doubt, because as part of that society itself, we have not got the complete knowledge of the experience. We know the text is there, we know we are Brahman, we are eternal Brahmans, all that Aham Brahmasmi, all that has come to us as knowledge, right? It's not that we didn't know about it, but as an experience, none of us came. Like death is not death, you do live, karmically you have to exhaust all that. All that has come in as knowledge to us, but as an experience, what really happened? What is that arrogance which stopped this expression?
I think an important point that Swamiji mentioned was, he said, I'm not theology light. And that's what I've seen rampant in the West, is people looking for shortcuts and promises that, for $2,000 you too can be enlightened. And at first I didn't understand the verse about people who are ignorant live in blinding darkness, but people with knowledge and vested interests are even in darker blinding darkness. And at first I thought, well, does that mean I'm not supposed to seek? And then as we've discussed and contemplated more and more, I realized that this is exactly what I saw when I was in California, was people who would sleep in rooms that were completely lined with books, New Age books, written by people in blinding darkness. So someone who took a few weekend courses, thought they had figured it all out, and then would write a book and get a huge number of followers. And so they're all just trotting down this path of, no, it's okay to be a couch potato and do this and that and the other thing, you're going to be fine. Just say some affirmations. And since they haven't seen someone with the power of our Swamiji, someone who is bringing in with force the ancient truths that just say it's not okay to be a couch potato, it's not okay to just learn a little bit and then go, yep, I'm good. You have to go all the way. You have to go all the way down the rabbit hole, as it were, and dig for the truth and dig until your fingers are bleeding. And I was raised among mountain people, and a lot of them don't know any religion or any spirituality, but they live in deep, deep stillness. And so it's true, they know nothing, but I would stake my life on them before I would trust some of these people who had taken, you know, a course here and a course there and read some New Age books, because you never knew when they were going to flip on you or change their mind about something. And it's true, they are in a darker place than just a good person who may know nothing.
Mike, you were asking, right? Like why they were told not to share the knowledge.
They just didn't share that
They didn't
knowledge.
share.
There was a vested interest there, but what was it really?
What I feel is that because it's passed down from generations, and they want to maintain that knowledge. See, when they don't, why they don't want to share, it's because it might get diluted on that way if they share. So why they are passing down from generation to generation only to their community? It is because of the lifestyle itself, the Brahmin's lifestyle, which they used to live at that time. The Brahmin lived a different lifestyle, Kshatriyas lived a different lifestyle, Vaishnavas lived a different lifestyle. So that knowledge they pass down from that generation to generation has to be contained. So that is why they feel that it shouldn't go to any other Kshatriyas or others.
Seema, there's something I want to share on that point, actually, that it is actually the seeking that stopped from generation to generation. It was the exploring from generation to generation. It was that is where arrogance set in. And, you know, had the seeking also continued from generation to generation, then perhaps the level of unconsciousness that society is in, we would not be in that, just as a thought. So, say for instance, one generation came up with this, so as it followed through, the knowledge got passed down, but not the seeking of the truth behind what was learnt, if you like. I think that is what the problem is.
See, could it be that they didn't want to share the knowledge, so the seeking didn't happen? See, like when a child asks you a question, okay, there is a seeking there in the child. What does a parent do? Go read up a little more, go find more answers, and then give the answer to the child. So always a question, a sharing leads to more questioning, more sharing. See, would it be that is what was at fault at that point of time?
See, how I'm seeing it is that first, the decision that I know all has happened. That's when the arrogance has set in, and then the sharing has stopped. That's how I see it. But I think there is scope for looking a bit deeper also to see whether there is incompletion in the first place where I am. That is why seeking has stopped. and that is why arrogance is set in, and then darkness is there, and then still more sharing is not happening. So there is some cycle there which I could look in a bit deeper into. But so far I feel that it is I know it, I don't need to seek anymore, there's nothing here to learn, then automatically the sharing is stopping.
There is something that Swamiji has shared on this matter. Culturally, as a society, see, the cultural, the social response and the way attitude is a reflection of individual's response, collective responsibility. It's a collective state. So what somehow the corruption happened where an extraneous utility has been brought into play. A medium of trade which is outside of our life has been introduced into us. And so, what is of value for us culturally has been devalued, and some other new valuation system has been introduced. And then everybody suddenly, we are playing with, let's say, blue coins. Suddenly, red coins have been introduced and blue coins are devalued. It's like the total change in culture. Our, like you said, the Gurukul system, and based on the attitude of the child, based on the response to the spiritual knowledge, when they are getting the spiritual experience, etc., their different trainings was given. Brahma Sutras or Yoga Sutras or Kama Sutras or whatever. And then accordingly they were released back into the society as useful part. Now that is not happening because that whole system is axed out. As a whole culture, Gurukul system is devalued. So because of that, utility patterns have changed. What is of utility has changed. Therefore, the father, who is a Veda Pandit, is now not very keen on teaching the same and encouraging the child. There are people who are keeping the track, but even the child is not being given that, then why would somebody else come? Earlier, if you see, look at any guru, his child was was one of the Sishyas. He may not be the main one or the prime disciple, but his child was definitely a part of the Gurukul. Now, if the minister's children are going abroad, then why would I think of keeping my child in the local school? I would also think about that because that seems to be the thing to do. So that is how transition and the devaluation of our culture has happened, I believe. There are always people to teach if you wanted to learn. As you said, as Ma said, there were no people who wanted to learn. The learning and the seeking, obviously to make a livelihood, it's easier to go deeper and there are a few people who want to go deeper. Those people found utility somewhere else. So that's why the devaluation. And Swamiji said, we follow the festivals, we wear new clothes, or maybe we go to the temple, but we don't know why we are doing. We can't answer, as you said, we can't answer the children because we have not been systematically taught. That's why we need to know the knowledge. Practice should be there and the knowledge also should be there. If only knowledge is there, we don't know why we are doing and then we'll vomit it out. If only we are doing practice, we can't convince somebody else. They have to do it out of respect or something for us, but not because of the vidya. It is just a ritual. Even a ritual when done with awareness and knowledge becomes meditative. And even meditation when it is done without the why, how, what, it becomes a useless ritual. So that's what it has come to, and then even that is being tossed out right now.
I think part of it as well is that being a seeker and being on the path can be very hard. And when you're under the guidance of a guru, you have someone who can keep pointing you in the right direction so that when your incompletions and your root patterns come up, you don't just, crumble under them. And we've witnessed it all in people who come to programs, that when Swamiji starts digging and helping people bring up these things that are holding people back, it can be very painful psychologically because a lot of us become very comfortable with our neuroses and our dysfunction. And so when you've got a master who's like a surgeon who's operating to take all these tumors out of you, you can respond in panic. And I think a lot of people just immediately go into a fear mode and say, well, I'm not going to seek because this seeking is scary. Well, the point is to go through it. You do you want to live that way your whole life, or do you want to get over it once and for all? Let Swamiji do what has to be done and move forward, because then you move into such a high frequency and such a state of bliss. But if you've never seen that before and you can't quite fathom what the goal is, all you know is that you want to get out of your depression or your anger or your fear, so you start seeking. But the minute those things are brought to the surface for you to deal with, a lot of people shut down at that point and stop seeking. So as Swamiji said, how do you move past that and keep seeking? And the thing is, you have to go through it. Don't turn around and stop. You have to keep going. And when the seeking gets tough, it just means that you're doing a phenomenal job. You have really stumbled on something important, and it's time to move on.
But unfortunately, we've seen even people who are with the Master, they also can't stand sometimes their own patterns, and then they leave. So they get a certain a level, a certain amount of knowledge, and then because of their fear or whatnot, of not wanting to let go of that ego, they say, oh, I know what I need to know, I can just go on my own. So how to address that?
You get correct, actually. There are two things here. One, they don't know what they are seeking, right? The second thing is, and the fear of the unknown, which is what actually holds them back. And that happens because there's lack of direction. There are very few people who will really courageously jump into it and say, okay, even if I'm not going in that direction, let me see what is coming out of it. See, I can tell you one thing. Before I saw Swamiji, before I met Swamiji, before I got connected with him, it was Shirdi Baba, and I used to read the Satcharitamanas, and there's a deep feeling connection with Baba. But somewhere I had plateaued. It had not gone deeper than one particular level where there was a good feeling, a good experience inside of me, but there was no growth beyond one level. And I didn't have direction. Okay? But the fear component was not there, right? So it is that belief and the faith, no, I'll continue, and definitely a master will come to me. I will have a master taking me on. It so happened that is how actually I met Swamiji. It was only the deep conviction inside of me, the deep trust in existence which took me in that direction, and a continuous seeking. And when you meet a master who you know is your master, there's no doubt about it when the master comes into your life. There's no other questioning, because your seeking has stopped in terms of finding the master. The seeking continues further beyond, because you really expand with his presence and his whatever he gives you as knowledge, a diksha, an initiation. It's a continuous upward movement, an upward journey. It's very joyful. This was a very, very deep experience in me. In fact, after the first part of knowledge that I got from him, there was an arrogance that came inside. There's no doubt about it. Because when I was sharing things with people who were stuck in their, where I was stuck originally, and I found them stuck, I used to tell them, hey, I have the answer, now you do it like this, and things like that. It was one side a joyful experience. I had experienced that, okay, I can get over this. And another side, there was an arrogance. There's no doubt about it, that this knowledge I had, the others didn't have. But it was not that I did not want them not to have. It was always there that they should also meet Swamiji and get the direct knowledge. So there is at one point of time, when you experience one part of knowledge, you do stagnate there, because you start enjoying the benefits of that. And if you don't go further in, then that is where the arrogance, like Ma Atmadaya said, you call it a day. You say, okay, I know what needs to be known. I am handling my life well. That's all that is required to be known. And what I can do with what I know, I'm achieving my success with that. So you stop there. So it's a conscious decision there again to want to go deeper in, to know really what is enlightenment, who is an enlightened being, and what is it that a human being has come down to actually search for, seek for.
I want to, as you were saying, some very beautiful things came to my mind I want to share. So in this scandal, when the religious persecution started, people ran. And when the ship is sinking, or perceived to be sinking, the first ones to jump are the rats, not the captain, not the sailors. Okay? The first ones to jump are the rats. And so, I was really disturbed. And I asked Swamiji, why is this? Why is this happening? Then Swamiji said, he told a larger gathering also. When life hits you in larger than life size, there's one of two things you do. Either you run or you face. The ones who face are spiritual, seekers. The ones who run are the materialists, atheists. So, not a single person who is associated with Swamiji in any little bit denies that they have learned some knowledge from Swamiji. And they have touched, they have experienced it. To the extent that one joker by name Kishan Reddy, he was testifying against the foundation in it's called district court. In that he was saying, I'm not afraid of death. For no reason he was just saying suddenly in the beginning, I'm not afraid of death. The lawyer asked him why. He said, Paramahamsa Nithyananda told me, I had this experience in NSP. I got the experience, I overcame the fear of death. He's telling in a testimonial against us. So nobody can deny that they got some experience, they got some knowledge. But when the crunch time came, he decided to jump and make use of it in a materialistic way and not be on the side of the consciousness. How do we know? We don't know. That much we should know. And we know we have a guru. You should know that much. You can't know everything. You should know that much only, that I have a guru and he knows. Then you are on the right side. So, when life comes up in front of you, larger than life, what do you do? And you don't know. You know that you don't know. What do? You go into the spiritual side or you go into the material side. That is the decision. That's the only decision that people who have left or people who have stayed back. That's the only decision every time you face a crisis. It's not a piece of cake. Spirituality is not cheap. It's very costly. Not everybody can afford it. It's very costly. It's invaluable. It's not for everyone. For very rare people. And if you can afford it, only then you can be here. Not anyone and everyone. It's only for those people who want to be a seeker, who want to seek and seek and seek and not be a materialist. And that decision has to come each and every time you face. When you are with the master, you'll be roasted. Otherwise, he's not a master. You'll be roasted. Whatever you do, he'll be roasted. That's the process. He has taken the responsibility to take you up, 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 and up. And even if you're falling down, he'll come there and lift you from there. Whether you're going that way or this way, you'll be roasted. And it's your decision whether to be a materialist or a seeker. That's all.
I think I'd say you don't know what you're missing, rather than you don't know what you're getting. You don't know what you're missing being with him. It is something, the unknown part of you gets revealed. And when you seek death, you start living. Only when you seek death. You start seeking and seeking and seeking and finding what is death, beyond death, and you start living.
Just to support that, the ambience outside is actually to see, once you've got to your first grade, then you go to the second grade, third grade, you've done your PhD and that's it. There is a certain capping of learning and growth. The system itself is like that. So I was just thinking, where did I learn that? Obviously when I finish my degree, okay, I'm done with that part. Then at work is a different type of learning. But even there, in one particular job, whichever company I stayed in, I would hit the ceiling at one point. That's in my job frame. That is all I can learn. That is all I can do. Because I would be a middleweight designer or a senior designer, and then there's the boss. So I would become my own boss to learn something new, right? But here with Swamiji, it is a constant space of expansion, no matter what we're doing, whether it is something to do with working with people, or in the background with something, or even in the kitchen. There is something to learn for everybody. So that atmosphere is what the ambience here is, to constantly seek and to grow, and not to settle into a space of arrogance or blinding darkness. Whereas outside, the system is designed in such a way that happens. Unless you are a real, deep seeker, or seeking, if you like, somewhere in yourself, then that flow is stopped. That is what.
Like Swamiji said, where you are is important, not what you do.
And what you do, where you are also. Will be at the right spot and not do the right things also, no. It's a kala is there. It's like a flowing river. If you don't swim, then you will be down. You will be thrown downstream. You have to keep working on the spiritual path, and only then you can reach the source.
And something people have found who did run away is no matter how intense you think the seeking becomes, when you go back into the outer world and try to just live that mundane life, you start feeling death then, because you just see so many people waiting to die, just doing weird little routines until, to waste time until the next big thing happens in their lives. But of course the next big thing isn't going to happen because they're not doing anything. They're not seeking, they're not expanding. They're just, as Swamiji said, they're settling. And when you settle, it's like laying down on the ground and you're just 6 feet higher than where you're going to be eventually. So to settle or settle in, all you're doing is laying down on the ground waiting to die. And you have to keep pushing yourself. When you wake up in the middle of the night and there's that awful anguish, that what's it all about, what's it for, don't just go back to sleep and keep having nightmares. Get up, get on the internet, start seeking, take that book that a friend gave you that you've never bothered to read. Everyone's getting little hints all the time, nudging them to go back to seeking. And it's very easy to just keep pushing them aside. But one day when you're old and you'll think, this could have been so different if I had followed my heart, followed those inspirations, followed that intuition. Because everybody gets it all the time. You just have to start listening to it.
Mom Megan, even the knowledge about what death is, what birth is, okay? That itself is so profound in terms of understanding the truth, that if that was exposed to humanity, the society at large, even when they were young, like what's happening when children come into Gurukul, it is like Swamiji very clearly said, make them understand they are alone. That is, they are orphans. Okay, that's one. The second thing is these Akashic readings on birth and death, where you really understand what exactly is birth, what exactly is death, puts you already in a different space of wanting to know more about truth. See, it actually propels you in the direction of seeking. So if that can be, really put forth at a very young age to the society, the children at large, and some, like you said, an enlightened civilization, the first 14 years is where a child must grow. And the last 20 years, they must be living in a peaceful society. So this is what I think becomes very important for us to continuously seek that space of truth, and not be ignorant completely, because here there is ignorance when you don't know about death. See, when you're just waiting for death to happen to you, there is an absolute ignorance. So one side, that category of people are also given the truth. On the other side, those who have a little knowledge also, you're propelling them into seeking further and further into what exactly, who are you in the first place? Basically, the questioning tendency of who am I is what starts happening at that point of time.
In my experience, arrogance is usually just the sign of a very scared person. It's the ego, it's one expression of the ego. And as Swamiji said, the ego will convince you that even though you're living in a mansion, that your whole life rotates around a bathroom and you're never allowed out of this tiny, small little plumbing room. And arrogance is what keeps anyone from expanding or really seeing the truth about their life. So killing the ego is probably the first big step towards keeping yourself out of the pitfall of arrogance, and to start questioning everything, to admit that you know nothing. But usually the biggest egos are from people who have the most scared child inside of them, who for some reason became afraid to seek outside of life at a young age because of circumstances. And the thing to remember is that you're allowed to reinvent yourself every day of your life. You never have to be the person you were yesterday. And Swamiji brilliantly tells people, even if you're in the best job in the world, if it's not challenging you, either quit the job or take on more responsibilities so that you keep expanding. And I think for that reason alone, what's even more important is everyone learning how to get rid of that ego, get rid of that part of themselves that is keeping them from seeking.
It's just like what Atmadaya Ma said, that when you think you know everything, the seeking completely stops. That's the ego that is there. So
really the best thing that I got from today's Vaakyaartha Sadhas is people who left. They do not deny, nobody denies that they have learned something from Swamiji. And I'm sure a lot of them keep the books and keep watching the TV, even if they are like a little shy in public and not admit, but they would keep it. But they are all enjoying the fruits of the knowledge they have learned. But they have cashed it out. It's like developing a goodwill in the business and cashing it out. They made it look like a business. They made it just a business deal. That's why how you deal with it, that's how life deals with you. So, but they miss very hard, very bad. So, I think that's the classical example of avidya and arrogance, that I know now I don't need anything else. Whatever is needed, I have gotten. Now I don't need the support. It's like the branch telling, I got enough food and I'll drop off from the tree now. You'll die. You'll wither away in no time.
In what ways then can we kill the ego? What techniques can we do to keep ourselves out of the ignorance and the arrogance?
There's a beautiful quotation from Sarvepalli Radhakrishna, the president, who was a teacher, who was a writer, author. So he said, I mean, it must be from the scriptures, but I heard him say, unless knowledge becomes bhakti, it's useless tinsel, however much you have learnt. The only way to keep the connection and to keep the seeking alive is bhakti, according to me. So the Nitya Puja and Ishvara Pranidhana, these are the practices that come to my mind to keep constantly remembrance of the consciousness and existence, and for us Master, who is the representation of both of them. That's the only way, and to keep him all around and in every aspect of our life is the technique that I could think of, is the only technique for me.
Ovia. It's the seeking itself, actually, to continue seeking, not to allow that to be switched off and say that I know, and then stop. To continue that, as Swamiji said in Satsang the other day, he has not stopped seeking. So I feel that the answer is to continue to seek and not assume that you know everything and stop. That's what.
And when you do think you know everything, just talk to a child and they'll quickly put you in your place and make you realize you know nothing.
So with that we'll close for today's Vaakyaartha Sadhas and invite everyone else also to join in the local Vaakyaartha Sadhas within their places. With that we'll close with the Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sadguru Padukar Paramastu.